Reform out here making promises to ban the people asking for reparations. It's funny that you have a freedom of vote, you exercise that vote, and so suddenly we start talking about hypotheticals about banning people. Dog whistling for the people out here. For those people that thought it would be wise to vote for Trump and to follow Trump, and Trump is now making a pig's ear of it. He's messing everything up, and these people rather than step down and realize what it is that they've done, they want to continue. No problem. We're going to hear about the logic of banning these countries from the UK and the wonderful implications for Britain. We're going to hear about the sacrifices to end slavery, supposedly that the British made, and we're going to talk about the much higher sacrifices to maintain it. All right. So that'll be interesting. Reform would deny visas over calls for slavery reparations. Reform UK has said that it would deny new visas to people from countries seeking slavery reparations from Britain if it formed the next government. If Nigel Farage's party said that this would apply to any country developing a formal approach and ban, the ban would cover all visa types, including ones for visitors and work. Britain transported an estimated 3 million African people across the Atlantic before abolishing the practice in early 1800s. Successive UK governments have rejected calls for reparations, which can range from financial to symbolic measures. Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch last month said that the UK should not pay compensation for a crime that we helped eradicate and still fight today. With that weird-ass accent. Now, the problem with that is very simple. You benefited from it. You helped eradicate it. You benefited more from it than you helped eradicate it. You talk about, indeed, a crime that you made so much money off of and that you didn't need anymore. And that you did everything less than 5 years earlier to try to help reestablish. All right? Let's not be hypocrites here. You did everything in your power to do that. It was unsuccessful. So because it was unsuccessful, you turned around and then you tried to stop it. Because you realized that, you know what? You're living in the Industrial Revolution, and the Industrial Revolution, well, you don't need slaves as much. You understand? And so you phased it out the same way that you phase out people at the checkout. Because now you have self-serving, self-checkout. So you don't really need people at the till anymore. That's why when you go into the store, there's nobody at the till. You have to wait for somebody to come in and open up the place for you. Because the self-checkout is what actually gets business done nowadays. So what's the point of having slaves? Slaves that can think independently, where you could just phase them out in favor of the new technology and the new machinery. So unfortunate. Kemi Badenoch, bought and paid for. Bought and paid for. Bought and paid for. But listen, the Brexit referendum showed how rulers of powerful states can be brought low by the efforts of common people. In this case, the British electorate. However, people from the lowest stratum of global society once brought low the mightiest empires on earth. Former African slaves in Haiti did the seemingly impossible and defeated all three of the major European empires of that day to obtain their freedom. Not in 1807, but by 1804. Few realize how the defeat of Napoleon by the brave former African slaves in Haiti opened the door for the dominance of the British Empire and the very beginning of the American one. The fervence of that manifest destiny. Actually, that probably would have given them the very fervor they needed to go into the West Coast. In the wake of the Brexit vote, which has the world reeling after Great Britain decided to abandon the European Union, much has been said about the historical scope, power, and influence of the British Empire throughout history. At its apex, the British Empire was the most powerful geopolitical force on earth. What many neglect to realize is that one of the occurrences that helped the United Kingdom rise to such position was the Haitian Revolution, which thoroughly defeated Britain's only serious hegemonic competitor, Napoleonic France. Much is discussed and written about Haiti's defeat of Napoleon and how it opened the door for the Louisiana Purchase that fostered the expansion of the United States into the nation that it has since become, However, few realize how the defeat of Napoleon by the brave former African slaves in Haiti opened the door for the dominance of the British Empire. Furthermore, as Americans always pride themselves on their revolutionary accomplishment of defeating the great British Empire and gaining their freedom, few give full acknowledgement to the superior military feat of the Haitian Revolution. And it's not only vanquishing the French and Napoleonic Empire and the Spanish Empire of the time, but also thoroughly defeating the mighty British Empire to the point of leading the United Kingdom to cease the transatlantic slave trade and any further official importation of slaves into the Western Hemisphere. Now, explain that. If I'm just making up things, explain how you have that. Oh, I couldn't do it anymore. I tried to do it, and so therefore I wasn't able to do it. I got shut down. I got caught with my pants down, so let me try to salvage everything. I got the people in Britain mad at me because I'm out here losing good British men. Good British men. 10,000 British soldiers had died in less than 2 months. In less than 2 months. 10. Now, for comparison and for good measure, you want to talk about soldiers dying. The Royal Navy soldiers, Royal Navy sailors died whilst preventing the slave trade, but not tens of thousands. We've seen multiple claims online and in the media that 17 and 20,000 members of the Royal Navy died liberating the slaves. This claim seems to have history. Repeats of it date back to at least 2010. Of course, lies. It seems to refer to the West Africa Squadron. The squadron, comprised by the Royal Navy Sailor Station on the West African coast, was created in 1808 after the abolition of the Slave Trade Act in 1807. That's 3 years after 1804, and thus with preventing the illegal trading of enslaved people between 1808 and 1860. The squadron seized over 1,600 slave ships and emancipated 150,000 slaves. So, the 20,000 members of the Royal Navy die while pursuing illegal slave ships. It is true that in some years, a large number of sailors succumbed to disease, not direct, but disease. In 1829, over 200 men were recorded to have died from diseases like malaria. Between 1825 and 1845, there were around 58.4 deaths from disease per 1,000 people each year in the West Africa Squadron. The squadron itself was fairly small during this period, only reaching an average of about 1,000 men per year in 1826, and then again after 1841. Total deaths from the period from 1825 to 1845 from all causes was reported to be at around 1,400. The Royal Navy Museum notes that there were 1,587 deaths from all causes between 1830 and 1865. I mean, let's be serious here. We just talked about 10,000 people. 10,000 people being killed in less than 2 months, trying to re-establish slavery in Haiti after the Haitians violently and bravely fought to end it. And yet you will say nothing of that. You'll talk about how just 10 years, or within 10 years afterwards, about 8 years afterwards, the British somehow abolished it. When what they don't tell you is that fully a third of all of those slaves, catchers, all of those slave freers, those liberators, were actually Africans. They were Africans. Because, of course, the European couldn't go on to the West African coast because of the yellow fever. And the yellow fever, indeed, the yellow fever was something that the African was immune to and something that the European was not immune to. So they would send these Africans, actually. And these Africans were the ones who were responsible for helping liberate the fortresses and helping liberate the slaves on the west coast of Africa.